What's up YouTube? Capital G here. Before you guys dislike the video, just understand it's a joke. It's just a freaking internet meme to me at this point. And also I thought it would be relevant considering today is election day. I don't actually endorse Donald Trump for president. I just think it's just a funny title. Like, take a joke. Holy Jesus. And I know people are saying, Cap, why did it say vote Trump in your video? I told you guys the names were bugged in the videos. Like on all my replays, it basically said that. And that wasn't me dueling. It was just somebody who was dueling on my live stream and a tag duel. So I think it might have been my tag partner a couple of times. But anyways, this is the Dark Magician deck, guys. At some point in this video, it's probably going to show a picture of my Dark Magician deck IRL. Basically, this is the deck that I'm building pretty much card for card. I don't think I'll change anything except maybe like the extra as I see fit, or maybe the side deck. I think my main deck is like pretty on point right now. Let me go ahead and start explaining some of the things. So anyways, play 3 Dark Magicians. Do not change this at all. Run 3 copies. Don't try and reinvent the wheel. This is like Blue Eyes. You need 3 copies of Dark Magicians because there's an off chance that one of yours will get banished and it can get a little more difficult, but you need 3 copies. What's it called? We got 3 copies of Rod. This is basically the Stratos for the Dark Magician spells and traps. It gets Circle, it gets Eternal Soul, Dark Magic Attack, Navigation, Illusion Magic. Also, you can get this card back from the graveyard. You will do that a lot, as I said in the video before. A lot of times you summon this guy, you get your effect, usually to search Circle, and then you kind of want this guy to die because once you start your Eternal Soul looping and you summon Dark Magicians over and over again, you want Rod to die so that Rod can basically you can add it back to the hand from the graveyard. Because if a spell or trap is activated, you can tribute any spellcaster and you can add this guy back to your hand. And even if you summon Dark Magician off Eternal Soul, the second he hits the field, even if you tribute him immediately, you still get the Banisher card on your opponent's side of the field with Circle. So basically you just end up plussing. 2 copies of Illusion. I wouldn't run 3 copies of this card. I only tolerate it, and a lot of times I hate it. If it counted as Dark Magician in the graveyard or in your hand, I'd run 3 copies. It would be infinitely godlike because it would have so much more synergy with this card and this card, but it doesn't. It only counts as Dark Magician on the field, which means, yes, it does work with Circle. You do get the Banisher card, but I don't know, man. A lot of times I find myself just alluring this card away because it'll sit in your hand and just be fucking dead forever. So a lot of times I just allure it to get deeper into my deck. 2 copies of Cherries and 2 copies of Maxi. I don't know why Kaiku's in the middle of here. Let's put Kaiku there. Foo. All right. Jesus. All right, there we go. Yeah, 2 copies of Cherries and 2 copies of Maxi. Okay, so we need hand traps for when you go second, or just like powerful cards going first that you know will lock your opponent out of going second. I was originally running 3 copies of Cherries. I got that from the dude on Sam's channel that got 12th at Toronto. But the thing I didn't like about 3 cherries was I would open with double cherries and like no allures, and I would just be like, oh, this is terrible. Or sometimes cherries isn't that good against like metaphors. It's not honestly like it's a blowout against ABC and PK Fire, but against certain decks, it's honestly not that good. So cherries is dark, and I definitely think you need it in the deck. But double Maxi is super strong too, especially with metaphors playing Gofu now. Like Maxi is really, really good against them. Kaiku is a good card. It's good against ABC and Infernoids. I honestly feel like ABC is an easy matchup for Dark Magician. And I feel like you could change this card out for Skill Dark Magician or Break of the Magical Warrior. And I really don't think the results would change that much. To my spell cards, we run Triple Duality and Triple Allure. These are your consistency cards. They dig through your deck. You'll notice that just about everything in this damn deck is dark except the Maxis. So obviously I have a lot of allure fodder. And if your cherries are dead against like, you know, metaphors or some shit like that, just allure them away. You know, allure them away, allure this motherfucker away, allure this away, because you don't need the normal summon Kaiku pretty much ever unless you're playing against Infernoids. Pot of Duality, consistency card. You do not special summon on your first turn. I think it's actually impossible for you to special summon in this deck on your first turn. You just do not do it. So Pot of Duality works perfect. The Hardened Soul of the deck, 3 copies of Circle. Circle, if you don't know what it does, basically when you activate it, if you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, if there is a Dark Magician or any Dark Magician spell or trap, you add that card to your hand. So I think when you activate this in my deck, I think that there are 12 cards that can basically make you +1. Even if you don't hit anything, you basically get to stack your deck in any order your opponent does not get to see. It's good because it helps you blind allure. Like if you know you're going to draw into a cherries, put the cherries at the top of your deck and then you just allure into it, even though you didn't have a dark when you activated it. So it's really, really good. And then the third effect is obviously anytime a Dark Magician is summoned, you get the Banisher card on your opponent's side of the field. This is how you outgrind every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! With this and Eternal Soul. And It's just a really, really, really good card. There would be no reason to play this deck without this card. Double Twin Twister. Again, I wanted to make my deck able to go first or second. Twin Twister is a go second card. I was running 3. I felt like I was drawing it too much. Bumped it down to 2. 2 is perfectly fine. And then we round up, or we round out with a couple of one-ofs. Dark Magic Attack, Searchable Feather Duster for this deck. Summoner's Art and Illusion Magic. Illusion Magic gets you 2 Dark Magicians. Summoner's Art gets you 1. I know a lot of people run 2 of this and don't run this. The reason I don't run 2 of this is because it requires a tribute. So I felt like 1 and 1 was better because they both basically serve the same purpose, but they do it in different ways. I do not run Demise and I do not run Desires because I tested those cards thoroughly and I didn't like either one of them. Desires banishes too much of your fucking combo pieces. Like, I don't want to have duels where I can't play Skill Drain. Like, Skill Drain's a win condition, you know what I mean? And Desires will, like, it would banish double Dark Magician and I would like lose because of it, because I didn't have enough power to like combat my opponent's field. There were times where I'd banish my Dark Magic Attack and I wouldn't have my Feather Duster for the whole duel. There were times where like I would banish my 1 illusion. You'll notice every person who runs Desires runs double Illusion Magic, and I don't like this card at 2 because it's a fucking brick. So I didn't like I didn't like Demise. I didn't like Desires either because it fucks up your navigation plays. You draw Dark Magician and you have to send it to the graveyard, which is fine because of Eternal Soul, but like you don't have enough zones. Like, you know how like Barrier Statues, they run like the field spells so that they have an extra zone to put stuff in, or Counter Fairies, they run like, you know, Pendulums, they have an extra field zone. Dark Magician doesn't do that, and I don't want Spellcaster Village because that shit is like inconsistent. Like, you want you want your deck to be as consistent as possible. People will laugh, they'll be like, well, how's Chariot's a consistent card? But who doesn't use their extra deck this format? Like, come on now. Then for the traps, I ran 3 Eternal Soul, 3 Strikes, double Drowning, double Navigation, Solemn Vanity, Skill Drain, and Starlight Road. This is your second Heart and Soul of the deck. This is your grind card. By the way, this is the card that is a magnet for Twin Twister. People will try to get this card off the field at all costs because this deck can outgrind any deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because of Eternal Soul and because of this. Even without Circle, just getting a Dark Magician back every single turn is just like, is busted, man, because your Dark Magicians are unaffected by all effects. So like, you know, your opponent can't Cure in them, they can't Solemn them, they basically can't do anything against them. Protect this card at all costs. Protect it with Navigation, protect it with Starlight Road, basically protect it against Twin Twisters, and you'll probably win. Another thing to note, if someone castells this card or they put it back in your hand, it will not blow up your field, but you can actually Starlight Road this card. If your opponent Twin Twisters it, well, actually that's a bad example. You would obviously Starlight Road to Twin Twister unless they just targeted 1. If your opponent MST's Eternal Soul, you can actually Starlight Road the Eternal Soul, because Eternal Soul does trigger from the graveyard and it will try to blow up your field, and as long as you have more than 2 monsters, you can actually Starlight Road your own Eternal Soul, but you don't get a Stardust Dragon, which kind of sucks, but you do get to protect your field. Solemn is just a slow down the game card, so, you know, run that basically. Same thing with this. These are just slow down the game cards. In this deck, to be completely honest, Skill Drain's better than Vanities. Even though Dark Magician is the only vanilla in this deck, it doesn't matter. Like, as long as you have this and this, Skill Drain basically tells your opponent no monster effects allowed, but at the same time, you just keep banishing their stuff over and over and over again. Eventually, you just outgrind them. You saw that with against the Infernoid guy. Like, even though I didn't have any monster effects, like, it didn't matter. And then lastly, the couple of copies of Drowning Mirror Force and why I recently switched to Drowning from Quaking. So I actually did get this from the dude who went first place at Utah. And no, I did not start playing this deck because of him. I was already playing this deck like a week and a half ago. And I mean, you guys can see by the picture, I have all the cards almost now. I couldn't have gotten that obviously in like 2 days. The reason why this card is better than Quaking in my opinion, and why I think he was right, is because a lot of times you will see in those duels, I just open and set 5. And when you do that, people will not think about Drowning Mirror Force. They will summon like decks like Metaphors, they will summon into that shit hard, and you will end up blowing them out, and you will basically end up winning the duel. Or a lot of times you'll just like summon Rod, you'll get Circle, and your opponent, like you set 5, and your opponent doesn't think you have a strong board. So they run over Rod, which you want them to do anyways, because you want to be able to get it back from the graveyard. And they think, oh, I've got the green light to just kill this guy. And they run into this, and basically you just win the duel. duel because of it, and there's more of a psychological edge. The second that somebody sees Drowning Mirror Force off of a desire, or not desires, off of like duality or something, they play differently for the entire fucking duel. Like your opponent only needs to see the Drowning Mirror Force one time and they will immediately fear it for the rest of the entire duel. So I think this card is actually better in Dark Magicians because you do not make big fields in Dark Magicians unless you have Eternal Soul. And when you have Eternal Soul, you're probably winning anyways. Then if your Eternal Soul gets blown up and you lose your field, then this card becomes live again. So yeah, I think this card is pretty much just better all around. Then just the side deck is just like, you know, my personal stuff. This is for when you go second against like DDDs, or if you go second against heroes. Those decks that make like, they're going to make Crystal Wing plus Siegfried plus like, you know, Joan of Arc, or they're going to make, you know, the number 38 plus like Crystal Wing plus Siegfried. Like distribute them and you basically just win. Same thing against heroes. If they make Bahamut Shark, totally awesome, and Dark Law, you tribute this, you summon it to their side of the field and you basically just win. Even if they solemn it, they don't get their monsters back, so it's just GG. You can still normal summon or special summon after this. And when it comes back to your side of the field, those decks generally do not play outs to it, so you basically can slow the game down, like if you had skill drain. And I mean, they basically just can't win at that point. Extra deck is just like a little bit of the cards that you do summon, the levels, the rank 7s, and then the synchros because cherries, and then everything else is just, these are all like they're just cherries targets. Like you don't really use that much space. Like you can throw in a Gaia Dragon if you want for Paleozoic. I don't think it's necessary, but all this other stuff is just, they're just cherries targets so that you can just cherries your opponent and hopefully just blow them out. So anyways, I might have a couple of duels, I might not. Thank you guys for watching as always, and give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And this is just to show you guys really quickly that I am committed to this deck. I'm going to be playing it IRL at the next event that I go to. I would have played it at the regionals that was in Concord over the weekend, but like so many of my cards just weren't here. Like you probably noticed that I'm missing, I think, double navigation, double maxi, and like the Mirror Force. I've ordered pretty much all the cards. They're just not here yet. Except the maxis. I actually had a super and a gold and I sold them because I wanted ultras, because I'm just such a rarity whore, man. What can I say? Like this is an ultra skill drain. It sucks you can't see it's ultra because I guess the light hit it. The only card that's not hollow in this entire deck is this, because I'm getting a secret Kaiku, because dude, I'm such a rarity whore. But everything else, like the what's it called, like the cherries targets and stuff like that, like they're on their way. I just don't have them yet. The only cards I don't have is, I don't have the D barriers and the totally awesome, because that's like, man, it's like $150. And I'm just hoping that the cards will become less expensive and I can pick them up a little bit cheaper. But I actually do think that I totally need those cards. And then let me just show you guys 2 quick replays. I just was playing last night. I just decided to hop on really quickly. Ran into a guy playing Metaphors, and I don't think he was like a great version of Metaphors or anything like that. He's running like Odd Eyes Metaphors or something. I don't know. But anyways, I look at my opening hand and I don't think he can win unless he cracks my board turn 1. What I've noticed about Metaphors is, and why I'm actually a lot less scared of the matchup now, basically they have to, like if you open with Circle plus like, you know, Eternal Soul, like they have to crack your board turn 1. Like I was just praying that he would Twin Twister me. I was like, please Twin Twister me so I can Starlight Road and just basically win the duel, because I'll get a Dust Dragon and basically the game's over. You know what I mean? At that point. And this just tells me that he didn't know what these cards did. You see, I searched out Dark Magic Attack. He tried to solemn my Magician of Black Illusion, but you guys know that obviously it's unaffected because it is a Dark Magician on the field. So he basically just scoops because he saw that I had Dark Magic Attack. I don't think I could have OTK'd him, but I would have blown up all his back row. This would have gotten banished, or maybe I would have big-eyed it. Like, I don't think he would have died, but like, I don't think there was like 0 chance he was going to come back. Like I had Maxi, I had another Surge, and I still had Starlight Road. He didn't even, like, even if he would have Twin Twistered, he'd have been in such bad shape. By the way, he was losing both of his scales too. So them scales basically were just non-existent. So I pretty much just scraped them game 1. And then I played him, it was a 2 out of 3 duel. And I mean, it really wasn't that hard, but I just want to show you guys, even when your opponent makes like really good turn 1s, like Dark Magician can still just recover. This is why, again, I played Twin Twister. So let's see. So he has a pretty strong board, but like, I don't know. I'm just starting to not fear Metaphors that much, even though I said it was a hard matchup. It's kind of hard to explain. If you play Dark Magician, it can be hard, but it's only hard when you let them establish a board and you let them resolve their counters during their second turn. Like if they resolve these, it can be difficult. But you see, right? So he's got Solemn and he has Kieran. That would generally be very difficult. But for Dark Magician, like no, not really, because the thing is, Kieran doesn't do anything against his stat. So let's get rid of the Solemn, which he activates counter. Don't care. Because that card is really not relevant. By the way, so you just see, right? So I activated Circle and I just go +1 off of it. I just get navigation for free, which means I can now summon my Dark Magician and then just have like spell and trap negation from the graveyard, which gives me an Eternal Soul. Now he bounces Ride for some reason. I don't know why. And then I just get like another search from Duality. And then look, at this point, I want to say the game should be over because we got Starlight Road, so he can't Twin Twister me. I have Eternal Soul and I have Navigation, and he gave me another search with Ride, which I think was kind of silly. But this is why, again, I say that Drowning is better than Quaking, because you notice like you don't have a board a lot of times with Dark Magician. Unless you Eternal Soul, you don't have a board. He drew the one out in his deck to my fucking circle. He drew Ghost Ogre. He drew Ghost Ogre, and I'm like, are you serious? He's actually gonna fucking Ghost Ogre me? Like that was, if that was a Twin Twister, clearly he can't do anything with it. Or I guess he could Twin Twister one card. So we navigate. I was trying to banish the Metaphors Fusion just so that he couldn't fuse for the entire duel, but he does use the, what's it called? If I had a Solemn, I would have Solemn that, because then he wouldn't have been able to fuse the entire duel. But he does bounce for some reason. He bounces my Black Illusion, which didn't really matter. Let me pause for a second because I got a Dark Magician anyways. If you look at the board, actually, he could come back now, because the reason I thought he could come back was because he had 2 7s. I was like, oh God, he's going to like Draco sack my back row and I'm going to lose. He goes into Absolute Dragon, which I was like, Kappa? Like, what? You just threw the game, bro. I don't think he runs Draco sack. The problem with Absolute Dragon is you see here, like, let me just slow it down. You see with Absolute Dragon, he can't crack my board because I just keep summoning Dark Magicians for free with Eternal Soul. And since he gave me this Rod, which will get me another copy of Magic, or a Magic Circle, I feel like there's no way still he can win. Like, I think his only opportunity to win this duel is if he would have blown up Eternal Soul. When he did not blow up Eternal Soul, he lost the duel right then and there. So he activates Combination for no reason. I plus again off of Magic Attack. So Magic Attack has already been like +2 this duel. He tries to bounce once again. These are unaffected. Then we just Harpy's Feather Duster him, and then we're just going to set our Anti-Spell Fragrance. Game's over. So we're just going to attack a bunch. It didn't even matter how much damage I did. The fact is, he would have had to deal with Anti-Spell Fragrance regardless. I think I would have let him play a Pendulum Zone, or I was going to let him play a Pendulum Scale, and then he would have taken 500, and then I would have flipped over Anti-Spell so that he would have been locked in. Like, either way, he could only play 2 cards anyway, so the chances of him winning this duel were, like, astronomically low. Even if he would have killed this, he still had to deal with Anti-Spell. Even if he killed Anti-Spell, he still would have had to deal with Circle and Eternal Soul. It's just like, it wasn't going to happen. So, anyways, just showing you guys off some quick Dank Magician replays.